Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. So I am back to talk about BookTube in January, or at least my January watching. I said during my 2025 goals that I was wanting to do a lot more shout outs and recommendations of booktubers and booktube videos, which I just had noticed I hadn't really been doing in 2024. And instead of doing my normal format where I would recommend 5 specific booktubers, I thought this format might open things up a little bit more to talk about specific videos and to not feel the pressure of having to encapsulate a booktuber's entire catalogue into like 5 sentences or so. And so yeah, without much further ado, let's just get straight into these booktube recommendations. I do feel straight off like my January watching was very much front loaded, with mid-January seeing a little bit of a lull in my booktube watching, mainly because I had a show on. I was in a production of Cinderella, and so therefore the time that in the evenings I might have spent watching booktube, I was on a stage instead, which is no bad thing. It just means that I feel like I was a little bit out of the loop for mid-January. But as you might expect, video trends that I saw included, of course, people talking about their best books of 2024. I saw so many people's videos recommending their best 5, 10, 15, 20, 24 books of 2024. Some people do them in a list where there's a very specific order. Some may separate them by non-fiction to fiction. Some may do tier rankings. I saw so many different formats and they were all so much fun to watch. I always say the end of December, beginning of January is my favourite time on BookTube, both as a creator and a watcher, because I just love seeing people wrapping up their year in reading. And I always get so many great book recommendations. In fact, one video that I would quite like to do is talk about books that I have added to my TBR as a result of all of these best of the year videos. I know Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot and some other booktubers like to do videos where they are going through and reading all the different recommendations that they've gotten from their favourite booktubers. I don't think I can quite promise that, but definitely I think it would be interesting to see what has caught my eye, what has caught my interest, what I'm going to add to my TBR. Along the same line is people talking about their bookish goals and intentions for the new year. Lots of people will talk about how they fulfilled their 2024 goals, their successes, their failures, but I always find people setting their intentions for the new year to be even more inspiring, because I do feel like the new year is just full of hope, and it's just really interesting to see what is on people's minds when it comes to their reading. And also it's so interesting to see how people maintain that through the year. I know Katie over at Books and Things has an amazing spreadsheet that she does to keep track of all of her goals. I wish I was that organised. Another little bookish trend was people talking about BookTok, because just before the inauguration there was a lot of talk about TikTok being shut down in America, so a lot of people were doing videos which were basically their farewell to BookTok, particularly talking about bookish dramas that had gone on. Obviously these videos have become a little bit less relevant since TikTok has been reinstated, but yeah, as somebody who isn't a TikTok user, I have to admit I do like knowing about little dramas that are going on. I like to know the gossip of what's going on TikTok, even though I can't do it. I can't sign up for TikTok. It's too late now. I've only just gotten Twitter off of my phone and I'm feeling good effects from that. I can't introduce TikTok. I don't want to call this one a trend so much as just people engaging in the discussion. Something that did crop up towards the end of January was people talking about the allegations against Neil Gaiman and the discussion of what do we do when one of our favourite authors ends up doing something terrible. How do we reconcile that as readers? Once again, myself, as somebody who isn't a Neil Gaiman fan, I've read exactly one book by Neil Gaiman and it was 10 years ago, so I don't really have like proverbial skin in the game, but I definitely have been a reader and lover of authors who have ended up being terrible. But yes, in terms of Neil Gaiman, I've seen Willow Talks Books talk about this. Gavin from Book Songs and Other Magic did a really fantastic video, as well as MJ from Reading This Life. Into slightly happier territory, a video that did pop up in my recommendations was 10 Spicy Opinions from BookTube. The video was originally created by Good Books Lately, talking generally about quite controversial opinions that often crop up on BookTube, such as audiobooks on reading. It came back around for me because Gavin from Book Songs and Other Magic did a response to that, talking about his own thoughts on this. I don't know if there have been any other responses to this video. I feel like it could become a tag in its own right. Of all of these opinions that can cause a bit of controversy, what do you personally think? And then finally, I wanted to give a little shout out to Gemma over at Gem of Books, who is getting well ahead of the game and well ahead of the BookTube video trends by talking about the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction. I really enjoyed her video where she discussed her own predictions for what she thinks is going to be on the long list. And yeah, like I say, she's getting well ahead of the trend, because I feel like February, March is typically when people start to do these videos, and so it's really been interesting to get her perspective well ahead of time. I've been really bad for watching book tags recently, but I did want to give a shout out to a couple of popular ones that have come up on my feed. Firstly, of course, it's the new year, so why would there not be a new year tag? And the one that I saw crop up a lot was the New Year, New Me book tag, originally created by Kevin Towell Reads, but I saw on Book Chat with Pat's channel. Another video that is really talking about your bookish intentions for the year. Another one that I saw pop up a few times was the BookTube Embarrassment Tag, created by Andy over at Really Random Reads. Just just talking about various situations when it comes to your reading life that can provoke a little bit of embarrassment for you. For example, books that you haven't read yet, books that you'd be embarrassed to see reading in public. And I do wonder if that's one that I should do soon, because I definitely have thoughts on that. In terms of individual videos that I've really enjoyed, Kieran over at KD Books, my Les Mis nemesis, did a really fantastic video called Get Your Kids Hooked on Reading. Kieran is really dedicated to this topic. He's done some fantastic videos recently about the current rising illiteracy in children, particularly in his country of Wales. But I think this is something that all of us have to be interested in, even if we do not have children ourselves. You know, I don't have any kids, but I do have 2 young nieces. And so for me, myself, I am invested in making sure that they love reading. But maybe sometimes we as adults overcomplicate it and push our children so far that it ends up provoking the opposite effect and they end up hating it. Another random video that popped up on my feed, but I really enjoyed listening in on, was Perimenopause Hit Me Like a Freight Train, Let's Talk About It and Books by Lisa over the Unhinged Woman book club, talking about why it is that she's not been on BookTube recently, and particularly how perimenopause has really affected her life, and more specifically for her BookTube channel, how it's affected her reading and what she is planning to do about that, books that she's been reading about this topic. And it just kind of hit for me how little I know about this stage of life. I know very little about menopause. I know even less about perimenopause, which seems wrong. I'm somebody who does like to be informed about what's coming up next, and yet so far I haven't shown any interest in it. And maybe it is because, you know, I'm 29, 30. In my mind, I've got another like 15, 20 years until that happens, but you know, you never know. And so yeah, I found this discussion really fascinating. Since I was a teenager, I've been really fascinated by discussions and science behind pregnancy and childbirth, even though, once again, still at this point in time, I don't have children. I don't plan on having them anytime soon, but it is something that I want to know more about because my future me would benefit from that knowledge. So why do I not think the same about perimenopause and menopause? And then the final individual video that I wanted to talk about and recommend was Your Favourite Author Is Not a God by Tori Talks. This is less talking about authors when they behave badly and how we deal with it, but more about how people on BookTube and just bookish social media react to people having different opinions about our favourite authors, and how we can be quick to jump on those people and attack them rather than having meaningful conversation. This reluctance to admit that maybe not every author is somebody else's cup of tea, and how we need to react better. I did want to give a little spotlight to a favourite creator of this month. As I say, I've not been watching a whole lot of BookTube, and therefore I've not been repeat watching a lot of people's content, but one that I have been going back to again and again in January is Sarah over at The Bookish Knitter. I've been watching her daily vlogs avidly, and you know, they're just simple. It's just her recapping her day, recapping the reading that she has done. Sarah has recently had a heart transplant, and so for the next year she is mostly staying at home, going to doctor's appointments, recovering. And I'm amazed that I've not talked about Sarah sooner than this, but I really love her vibe. She just seems really lovely and funny. Her main genre of choice is category romance, but she does read other things like crime. She, like me, is also a avid listener to the Welcome to Hell podcast, which I didn't expect until she brought it up, and yeah, I love this for us. And so yeah, if you want a booktuber whose daily updates are gonna just make you calm and happy, I really recommend Sarah. And so yeah, looking ahead to February, I've tried as best as I can to keep a note of different readathons and readalongs that are going on in February, but I am sure that I have missed some. One that popped up a lot for me was Febregency, which I'm never sure if this is meant to be reading Regency romances or classics that were written in the Regency period. I think it's the former, but do correct me if I'm wrong. There is the Get a Clue readathon hosted by Rainy Blue Reads, Forensic February hosted by Chloe Reads Books, the X's and O readathon, Once Upon a Febregency, which is all about reading about fairies in the Fae, Foodie February, which is hosted by Redhead Reading. Eva from Pretty Purple Polka Dots pointed me to a read-along of Little Thieves by Margaret Owen, which is being hosted by Margaret the Word Nerd and Leandra at Leandra and the TBR Zero. But yeah, in terms of this coming up aspect of these videos, I'm definitely going to need your help in keeping a track of everything that's going on, because I know that I have missed out some readathons that are going on, and I know for March we always have very many of them. So yeah, definitely leave down in the comments anything that I missed out. And so that, yeah, those are all of my BookTube recommendations. I'm filming this on the 26th of January, so I'm definitely expecting that there will be more videos in the next few days. They will just get bundled up into my February recommendations. And yeah, I would love to hear about any BookTube videos or BookTube creators that you have really been enjoying. I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.